Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries in history related to the Bible. This is the Merneptah Stele.
The Merneptah Stele is incredible because it mentions Israel for the first time outside the Bible. But it's talking about a group in Canaan, not a nation. Hi, my name is Bruno Soltic and I'm an archaeologist and a historian.
There was a pharaoh in Egypt by the name of Merneptah. He came right after Ramses II. And this stela, this victory statement, comes from 1208 BC. So this thing is over 3,200 years old.
You got that right. Merneptah's campaign in Canaan is well documented. I've excavated at Tel Gezer, one of the cities he attacked, and we found layers of destructions and skeletons from his time. But like many Egyptian inscriptions, this stela exaggerates his victories. Gezer and other cities were rebuilt shortly after his conquest.
And if you look down here, you can see how it's kind of worn more black because people were actually touching the inscription that mentioned that Israel as a nation had been laid waste by Pharaoh Merneptah in 1208 BC.
The stela says Israel was laid waste, but it doesn't describe a nation. In 1208 BC, Israel was more like a group of tribes in Canaan's hill country, not a full-fledged kingdom.
Well, how could that be if the Exodus took place in the 1200s like many people say? The much more consistent date for the Exodus, according to the Bible and archaeology, is the Exodus took place in the 1400s BC, particularly according to the Bible, 1446 BC.
You mean according to your interpretation of the Bible and archaeology? The Merneptah Stele doesn't support a 1446 BC Exodus. Archaeology shows no evidence of Israel's settlement in the region for 200 years after. Instead, the first settlements linked to Israel appeared around 1250 BC, with small farming villages and distinct cultural patterns like no pin bones detected in the diet. This matches the timeline suggested by the Stele, not the 15th century Exodus. Even the Amarna letters from the 14th century BC, which detailed life in Canaan, make no mention of Israel. This evidence points to Israel emerging gradually as a tribal group in the 13th century BC, and not through a sudden migration centuries earlier.
That would have given the Israelites enough time to get into the land and become a nation, so later Merneptah could brag that he had beaten them.
Again, Merneptah Stele described Israel as a tribal group and not as a nation. The Merneptah Stele is an amazing artifact, and my work at Tel Gezer confirms the evidence of Merneptah's campaign. But the Stele doesn't support a 1446 BC Exodus, or Israel as a nation by 1208 BC. Instead, the evidence shows that Israel emerged gradually in the 13th century BC as a group of tribes settling in Canaan.